this entire day I got home, I was starving, and I knew, all right, whatever's at home, I'm gonna go crazy. And I binged an entire jar of peanut butter. I was making
The whole jar?
The whole jar, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was bad. Went to bed that night, and I woke up in excruciating pain. At about 4 in the morning, felt like someone was stabbing me in my stomach, the worst stomach ache you could ever imagine, combined with just like your intestines feeling like they're gonna explode. So I was extremely scared. I drove myself to the hospital because I thought I was legitimately dying, and they did an ultrasound, and they're like, hey, your gallbladder is about to rupture. So they scheduled emergency surgery, and I had to have my gallbladder taken out.
Emergency cholecystectomy right on the spot.
Yep. And then the doctor came in the next day to check on me, and he goes, Mr. Campolo, he goes, I don't think you realize how close you were to possibly dying. He goes, if you would have waited just a few more hours to come to the hospital, there's a good chance your gallbladder could have ruptured, especially in the middle of the night when it did, and you might not have woken up. You'd be dead.
Imagine losing 100 pounds and becoming the best physical being you could possibly be, but not really shedding the internal issues of binge eating and food addiction. That one night you eat a whole jar of peanut butter because you're on a binge, only to land yourself in the emergency room for an emergency cholecystectomy. And if you don't do the surgery, you could have possibly died. Come check this story out.
Shawn French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time, I confirmed it. A whole society determined success.
What's up, guys? Shawn French with the Determined Society, coming to you live from the Omni Performance Institute in Fort Myers. I have with me today an amazing individual, really good friend, amazing fitness coach, Stephen Campolo. What's up, baby?
Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, man. Dude, it's always good to see you. And man, real quick before we get into it, though, I know we wanted to, but I have to acknowledge something. You were one of the very first ones that ever believed in me. I sent you a simple congratulatory message on Instagram for your book. And then you slid into my DMs like you do on the regular now.
It's the first time I ever met a man online.
Yeah, absolutely. He slid into my DMs, and we've had this amazing friendship ever since. Yep. And brother, there was days where I wanted to pack all this shit up and stop, and you were there to tell me, absolutely not, you keep pushing, be your brand, and here we are, so thank you.
I'm proud of you, man.
Thank you,
I'm
man.
proud of you.
Thank you. Dude, so let's get into it, man. You have such an amazing story. You lost over 100 pounds. But there was some scary points in that too, man. Yep. I think, you had an addiction to peanut butter, and I don't mean that as a joke, right? We kind of talked about this before. Walk us through that, man. Talk to the audience about that.
So I'm going to bring the audience up to speed really, really quickly. So grew up in an Italian home in New York, and I just always loved food. I knew I had a very different relationship with food than most other people, because I'm the oldest of 4 kids, right? But I was the only one who just like loved to eat. My other siblings, they would have some food, but it wasn't like a big deal. For me, I found so much pleasure and enjoyment from food, which led me to become an overweight kid. And then as a teenager, I was, close to 300 pounds. Now imagine being in middle school, going into high school, being 300 pounds, right? You get bullied, you get picked on, like your lack of self-esteem.
Yeah,
like those years really mold you in.
Dude, and I get it. I was slightly overweight, but I had a mullet.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, that's even cooler. So,
yeah.
But that really like kind of shaped how I viewed myself and my confidence, and it was tough. It was tough. So going into high school, I realized, all right, I don't want to be the fat kid anymore. I hate being out of shape. I hate getting, just kind of made fun of essentially. So I decided to lose the weight, but I did it the wrong way, right? This is 2003 when I was about 15 years old.
What do you mean the wrong way?
Just starving myself, just eating chicken and broccoli, just running every night. Like, keep in mind, there was no social media in the early 2000s, right? There was no Google. So I just kind of did things like, well, Rocky always runs when he gets ready for a fight. I'm going to do, what Rocky did. I'm going to run every night, which is what I did. I ran every night. I ate chicken and broccoli, and I lost weight pretty quickly. But as you can imagine, I ended up, with like a bunch of loose skin. I looked flabby. It just wasn't attractive, which led me to the next journey, which was starting to lift weights, right? Someone told me, well, if you want to build up your body, you have to start lifting weights. So I got into weightlifting, in my mid-teens, and started to understand training and bodybuilding and all that. My family moved down to Florida when I was about 16 years old. I met up with a professional bodybuilder. My dad actually got me a job at Gold's Gym because he knew how much I love, fitness now. And this bodybuilder took me under his wing, and he got me ready for an all-natural teenage bodybuilding show at the age of 17.
That's amazing.
So that was exciting. And here I was, learning to eat properly, learning how to train, because again, beforehand, like I was just reading muscle magazines thinking that, I'll just do this workout, right?
The Bill Phillips body of work.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So getting ready for the show was a great experience, but it was super restrictive. Like I was eating, again, 6 small meals a day, doing tons of cardio. And I started to develop this really, really bad like food addiction, like obsessing about food. And I remember as the bodybuilding show got closer, and I trained for about 6 months for it, I remember just going on the McDonald's website, just like staring at burgers, like saying, oh my God, I cannot wait for the show to be over. This way I can go pig out and binge and go crazy.
There was that finish line.
There's the finish line. And towards the end, I didn't even care about the show anymore. I just wanted to go eat all my favorite foods because I was so deprived, so depleted, I was just ready for the show to be over with. And that's exactly what happened. After the show was over, I binged for about 30 days straight, gained close to 40 pounds
Good Lord.
in a month. Like think about how negative that could be on your health,
Sure.
right? But every night,
not just your health, but your mental health as well.
Of course. So here I prepared for this bodybuilding show, and it was all gone within a few days of just engorging myself. And I realized I had a really serious problem with food and food addiction and binge eating. Now that problem had always been there, right? Growing up, I always loved food, but when you deprive yourself and put yourself on this really restrictive diet and tell yourself I can't have pizza, can't have this, can't have cookies, you start to demonize certain foods.
Sure.
You put them on a pedestal almost, and then once you do fall off track or have one of those cheat days or binges, it's like the wheels are off and there's almost no stopping yourself. I call it the all or nothing mentality. Either
Sure.
I was all on my training and diet, or I was all off and just binging, going crazy.
Dude, it's so funny because we've had so many conversations about this.
Yeah.
Like we have literally opened up to each other on the phone and in person about how hard it is for each one of us once we get off track to get back on.
Yeah.
And what we really realize is that, what I've realized is we have to change from the inside, and then you can change the outward, appearance. But for us, it was so important that we hone in on this, this infatuation with certain foods. And it's something that until recently I haven't been able to get a hold of, and now I feel like I'm on a good path. And you've been a part of that journey.
It's a process, though. One thing I always tell people, it's like you're not going to go from being overweight, out of shape, and having this relationship with food to all of a sudden jumping on a fitness plan, and now your mental and emotional state is completely different. Right. Now that process will happen, but it is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. Just because you go from 300 pounds to 200 pounds, and now you might look great and feel better, there's still, I always tell people there's still that 300-pound fat kid inside me, and he tries to get out every single day.
Anytime he can, he wants to come out and play.
Anytime he wants to come out.
Yeah.
So if my wife brings home a box of cookies, if she brings home peanut butter, if there's anything that might tempt me in the slightest, it's like all of a sudden I go into this mental battle with myself, telling myself, avoid it, don't do it. And I tell my wife today, please don't bring certain foods home, because even though I'm now, a health coach.
I don't think she listens, though.
I don't think she listens either. But even though I am more disciplined, I've been on this journey for 20 years now, right? There are still times where I fall short. I still binge periodically. I'm not perfect. And I always tell people it's not about perfection. It's about consistency, right? Yeah. Because again, we're all human. We all have a stressful day, or whatever causes people to binge eat. Like it's more emotional than anything, right? And I say, like, if you could just limit the binges, because I was binging like 3-4 times a week.
I get it.
If you could take that from 3-4 times a week to maybe once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or once a month, you're going to be in a much better position. So the idea isn't just to say, all right, I'm never going to binge again, or I'm never going to have pizza again. It's like, no, we're all human. Like, food is to be enjoyed. We just have to put certain parameters on it and make sure that we're not falling off track, every other day. Because that's when you get into a series of taking 3 steps forward on your health journey, taking 3 steps backwards, and it evens out, and you're never really able to truly get ahead.
And I feel like if you do that, you're always in this like uphill, like you're climbing Mount Everest. Now you get to the first peak, now you're in the second summit, and it's a constant work, constant strain. But most of everything that I found in my own journey is when we're doing that, or when I'm doing that, it's harder mentally. And then it chips away at my patience. It chips away at my love for myself, and a peaceful nature that I think I naturally do have. And when I've been able to grab a hold of it and have a piece of pizza or two, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll finish up with a protein shake. I just don't want any more. I'll always be obsessed with cookies. I love Crave cookies. I love all these cookies that you can get here locally now. It's scary because they're really good. But you mentioned peanut butter, and again, dude, a lot of people will look at you on your page and look at you right now in this interview, be like, man, handsome guy, well put together, in shape. You look great, by the way.
Thank you.
But you had an experience with peanut butter that was very scary.
Yeah.
Do you mind talking about that a
Sure,
little bit?
yeah. So before we talk about that, I believe there's a distinction between food addiction and binge eating. Because most people think if you're a food addict, well, that means that you're automatically a binge eater, which wasn't the case for me. Because growing up as a kid, before I even knew anything about binge eating or weight loss, I just loved food, right? I had a food addiction. And a lot of people, if they're being truthful with themselves, do have a food addiction,
Of course.
right? But the binge eating didn't actually start until I put myself on a diet. Because now I was telling myself, okay, now I can't have certain foods. I can't eat these certain things, which led me to, create this emotional mental battle. Then once I would have these foods, it was like, okay, well, I'm going to engorge myself because I'm going to get back on my restrictive diet Monday, so I might as well eat everything in sight.
I don't want I'm
today.
going to get it again.
Exactly.
So it's like that forbidden fruit, so to speak, right? You're constantly, I want the audience to really dial in on this one because, that's an important point. The moment we restrict ourselves, we're telling ourselves something is bad, right? And when we do that, it gives us the sense of, well, if it's bad, it's gonna feel good, right? And then we find ways to overindulge and binge, and it's a little more dangerous at that point.
Yeah. And I was like one of those. I call it the weekend warriors, right? Monday through Friday, I would kill myself with my nutrition. I would be perfect with everything. I'd sometimes work out twice a day. Then the weekend would come, and it was like all bets were off. I would stuff my face all weekend long. Monday morning, I'd be right back where I started the week before. So I call that the roller coaster from hell, which is what most people are on, right? Most people have that structure of the work week, Monday through Friday. Then the weekend comes, the kids are home from school, you're off from work. What happens? You're running around, going out to eat, going get fast food. Then Monday morning, it's like hitting the reset button every week, right?
Man.
It's the most frustrating
It's
thing in
exhausting.
the world.
Well, it's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Not even from a physical standpoint, from a mental standpoint. And I think that the mental side of things drives everything, right? And if we're exhausted, we have that decision fatigue. We can't make those good decisions, and then we make the easy decision, which isn't necessarily the best one, right?
So going back to the distinction between food addiction and binge eating, right? So food addiction is just your love for food. We find, finding great pleasure in food, which is what I have done my entire life. The binge eating didn't start until I put myself on this super restrictive diet, telling myself this food is good, this food is bad, right? So after the bodybuilding show, again, I binged, I gained 40 pounds, but that binge eating series of habits were still there, right? So even all throughout my 20s, and going back to what you were talking about before with the peanut butter. So this event happened about 5 years ago. I was out of my house all day. I came home, I was starving, and raiding my pantry, looking for something. Like I could sense a binge is coming. Like you probably had that before.
When it's coming.
People know, like, okay, I could feel myself.
It's about to
getting
get crazy.
The urge to binge. It might happen the day before, 2 days before, but you feel it almost building, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happened with me. So this entire day, I got home, I was starving, and I knew, all right, like whatever's at home, I'm gonna go crazy. And I binged an entire jar of peanut butter. I was making
The whole jar?
The whole jar. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. It was bad. Went to bed that night, and I woke up in excruciating pain. At about 4 a.m, felt like someone was stabbing me in my stomach. The worst stomach ache you could ever imagine, combined with just like your intestines feeling like they're gonna explode. So I was extremely scared. I drove myself to the hospital because I thought I was legitimately dying. And they did an ultrasound, and they're like, "Hey, your gallbladder is about to rupture." So they scheduled emergency surgery, and I had to have my gallbladder taken out.
Emergency cholecystectomy right on the spot.
Yep. And then the doctor came in the next day to check on me, and he goes, "Mr. Campolo," he goes, "I don't think you realize how close you were to possibly dying." He goes, "If you would have waited just a few more hours to come to the hospital, there's a good chance your gallbladder could have ruptured, especially in the middle of the night when it did, and you might not have woken up. You'd be dead."
That's crazy.
It was a huge wake-up call for me, just understanding that. Now keep in mind, 5 years ago, I looked how I look now.
Yeah.
Like I was in good shape. I was working out consistently. I was following and living this healthy lifestyle. But all those years of binging had finally compounded and brought me to this moment in my life where my body was just like, no more. Just overloading your gallbladder and liver all those years. It was a breaking point.
The audience, I want you guys to understand something. This is such a great point because we literally don't know the silent battle everybody else is fighting. We all have that silent battle, right? I don't know if it's not a demon, it's nothing crazy like that, but it's like for every person walking around that you think has it all figured out, they're fighting something.
Yep.
It could be depression, could be binge eating, right? It could be lack of confidence. There's so many things going on. I just think that, man, the one thing that I love about our relationship, our friendship is I can be honest with where I'm at with you. You know, how is having friends like me or others that you can be radically authentic with, like, hey man, here's where I'm at. How has that helped you grow as an individual?
It's important, but also I think besides having friendships and having those circles where you can be honest and open, I just decided to completely let go and post all of it on social media for the world to see, right? I've been a full-time fitness coach now for 5 years, but I decided 4 years ago to really just put it out there. My struggles with binge eating, my struggles with food addiction, and even today, like I am very open and honest about telling people I'm still not perfect. Like I just had my birthday weekend this past weekend, right? And I pigged out on cookies. I had all my favorite foods.
I hope
right?
you did. Yes.
I did. And I enjoyed myself and I have no regrets.
Good.
And then I was back on track the next day, right? But just putting it out there and sometimes just being open and honest, like it allows people to say, you know what? Like I'm not the only one that struggles with this, right? I'm not the only one that deals with this. Because a lot of times, all these fitness people out there, like you look at them and you're like, wow, this guy looks great. He's in shape. It must be so easy for him to stay on track. It must be so easy for him, you know, to get to the gym. Some days I don't want to work out. You and me, I've had conversations with you while I was in the gym parking lot, and I'm like, dude, I'm sitting in the gym parking lot. I don't even want to work out today.
Yeah.
And there are times where I just drove my car off the parking lot and went right home, right? Some days
hard,
I
man.
have it, some days I don't. And I think people just need to realize, like, it's a very human thing, you know?
It's funny you mentioned that. So yesterday, I've been traveling a lot. We had the event in Jacksonville, then I went to Michigan to meet up with ET, and coming back, like I just didn't feel good, man. Like it's a lot of travel for me. And I know some people are like, dude, it's only 2 places, but literally, you know, when we went to Jacksonville, it was probably like not even 2 weeks ago. It feels like 3 months ago for me. And yesterday, I was telling my wife that I just don't feel good today. And I don't have any energy. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to do anything but just work a little bit from home, had some conversations with my business partners, made some moves for the show, and then also just chilled. And even today, when I did a workout, it was an abbreviated workout because I didn't feel good yet. But I wanted to get some movement in there. And I just think that understanding when to kind of, you know, put the foot to the gas and also when to raise up on the gas pedal, pump the brakes a little bit, because our overall health is what the most important thing is. And if we're constantly pushing ourselves, we're never going to be what we need to be. So it just that kind of, you know, getting to the gym and sometimes driving away, man, sometimes that's a thing. But now on social media, and you're not one of those people, but you know, there's a lot of fear mongering about the driving away. If you drive away, you don't want it bad enough. You're not determined. You're lazy, and I don't think that's the case. I think sometimes it's self-preservation.
And that's why I always talk about consistency, right? If you can be consistent 80% of the time, consistent 80% of the time with your nutrition, consistent 80% of the time with your workouts. Like I was one of those guys where I had to work out 7 days a week, right? All my meals had to be perfectly calculated. Now I'm at a point years later where it's like, you know what? If I can get to the gym 4 days a week, that's fantastic. And that's the goal that I aim for. This way I don't have to put all that pressure on myself every single day to get there, because some days I'm just not in the mood to go work out, right? Some days I want to go work out. Some days I just don't got it. And on those days I give myself grace. Maybe I'll go for a walk. Maybe I'll just get my 10,000 steps in that day. Maybe I'll go play pickleball or something, right? But even with nutrition too, let's say it's, you know, it's a Tuesday when we're filming this. Let's say tonight I was to fall off track. Well, the old me would say, all right, well, I fell off track. I might as well just do all the damage this week, and then I'll get back on track next Monday.
But 6 days later,
but now I've just destroyed, you know, probably a month worth of progress. I've gained 5 pounds, and now we're just having this setback. So one thing I always tell people and tell my clients, like, it's about course correcting. If you can course correct very, very quickly, get back on track very, very quickly, those are the people that ultimately reach their goal, right? All of my clients that have had the best success stories, they've never been perfect, right? They've slipped up here and there. They've gone away on vacation. They've gained 5 pounds, but they come back. They get back on track quickly. They course correct and get on the path to success.
I'm going to Jamaica on Friday.
I know that.
I know. Wow. 5 nights. 5 nights.
And it's funny because even like now it's summertime, right? I used to be so stressed thinking about going on vacation because I'm like, what if I fall off track? What if I fall back into my binging habits, right? What if I come back from vacation, I'm 10 pounds heavier? Like I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to feel humiliated, defeated. But now, you know, again, it's a process of going through this place where you just kind of give yourself grace along the way and say, you know what, I'm going to try to do my best. I'm going to try to get a few workouts in. I'm going to, you know, enjoy myself. I'm going to drink what I want, eat what I want, but just don't overdo it. Like you don't have to go crazy just because you fell off track a little bit. Because the old me, if I had one little cookie, that meant I had to go eat the entire package. Then I would drive to the grocery store and go raid everything in the store. That was, you know, that was a bad path to be.
It's that. And also for me, it's more about setting a great example for my children. right? I want to be able to enjoy certain things with my family. I want to be able to go to Jamaica and have a nice meal and not worry about my macros or, you know, like, hey, what is this one piece of cookie going to do to me? I want them to grow up with good, healthy eating habits. So for me, it's about breaking the cycle, that breaking the chain. It's like, if I can bridge that gap now with what I'm doing and just showing that I can do amazing things, get back in peak physical condition, be an athlete, run multiple businesses, and also be a human being, I think that's what my children need to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and ultimately it's like the path of consistency. And I know it's not like a broken record, right? But the biggest mistake I see people make, and the reason why people never reach their goal, is because they put themselves on this crazy, rigid, strict plan.
You've been on me about that before, dude.
Because people, I mean, what happens after a weekend of binging? What did most people do? All right, it's Monday, I'm gonna cut my calories in half. I'm gonna run 5 miles, I'm gonna go work out, right? They do. I explain it like, it's like putting less fuel in your car, but now wanting to drive your car more, right? It's only a matter of time before your car breaks down. And that's what people do to the human body. They go on these, you know, benders or binges on the weekend, then Monday comes, they want to reset everything, right? They want to undo all this damage. So they create these highly unrealistic goals for themselves. And by Tuesday or Wednesday, they're burned out, you know, they're pulling into a McDonald's drive-thru and binging, and the cycle continues because they're essentially creating the habits of binging to begin with, right? When you're starving yourself and overexerting yourself, you know, there's a lot of hormonal functions that are happening within the body that are telling yourself, hey, we need food, we need nutrients, right? And you end up wanting to binge.
Well, food is ultimately fuel, right? And what I've noticed lately, and this is good for the audience to kind of think about, there's certain moments now that when I'm eating something, I almost be like, yeah, that doesn't taste good anymore. And it's odd to me. I had a piece of pizza the other day. I had 2 pieces of pizza the other day. I'm like, this is good, but it's not like my jam anymore. I like it, but I'm not ready to have like the 3rd piece or the 4 piece, right? And it's so much healthier, right? Like I feel like I can have these foods and not be a slave to them anymore.
Yeah. It's really getting to that place where you don't feel like you're a slave to your diet anymore. Where if you do overeat or have, you know, a few pieces of pizza, you don't have all this guilt associated with, you know, oh, I'm a failure, I'm a loser, I'm never going to reach my goals. Because the truth is, having a few pieces of pizza, it's not going to derail you in the slightest. But when you do that, a lot of times, you know, the mental and emotional patterns kick in to where you feel like, all right, I messed up a little bit. I might as well just go to the limit and now just eat the entire pizza and then wash it down with the ice cream and then have the cookies. Now you took one little slip up that never would have affected you in the first place, and now you've magnified it to where, okay, now you're in this really bad mental place. You made a bad situation, or not even a bad situation, but you took a situation in your head that you magnified as bad, and now you made it 10 times worse.
Mountain to a molehill.
And the next morning what happens? You wake up, you feel bloated, you feel disgusted with yourself, and it is so hard to get to the gym because you're like, why? I just did all this damage the night before. It's like, what's the point?
What's the point? I feel like garbage. I can't get up. But well, dude, thank you so much. And for the audience, I hope that you guys, if you have any questions about food addiction, binge eating, you hit up my guy, Stephen Campolo, and ask him any questions because he's been there before. You're not just talking about a lifestyle, you're living it. You're inspirational. You're one of my best friends, and I love you to death. Thank you so much for coming on.
Love you, man.
Love you
Thanks
too,
for having me.
Absolutely. What I've always found is all the flavors, you can taste artificial flavoring in them. With raw, it's exactly that. I don't taste that. It's a clean protein source. Tastes great, and I'm not putting a lot of things in my body that aren't good for you. The biggest thing that I will say that I love about raw nutrition and Bum Energy is they're all natural ingredients and they're third-party tested. So what that means is an actual lab test is to make sure what's in the product is actually what is stated on the label. And then you'll see on the website of Raw Nutrition that it is signed off on. So there's no banned substances in these products. Athletes can use them safely and not get tested and popped for a failed drug test for performance enhancing, ingredients. It's completely safe, guilt-free, baby.
Hi guys, my name is Rich Klein. I'm the Director of Training at the Omni Club here in Fort Myers, Florida. Our day-to-day at the Omni looks a lot like this. Old Dark 30, coming in, ready to go. Open the doors at 5 o'clock, and it's a variety of things from our SkillX classes, which is kind of like our boot camp class. There's also an O-Fit class, which is like our functional fitness class. And then we have a variety of other yoga, Pilates, bar classes, which are really incredible to engage the members and get the best results in the shortest period of time.
Hi, my name is Bella Alessio. I'm a program director here at the Omni in Southwest Florida. Here at the Omni, we base ourselves here on a performance institute. We have techno gym equipment, which is the highest level of equipment that you can have. Our AI-driven technology brings us to the next level to bring you to your next level.
The expectations at the Omni are the members come first, and we accept nothing less than the best. We're trying to create the best overall wellness experience, and it takes a little bit more than just buying equipment and putting it in a space. It's about the people that work here going the extra mile to make sure when people come in that their needs are met.
Shawn French, what up? This one luck, I let the pain inspire me. I put my all in everything I'm doing. Up until it's done, I'm me for the entirety. I put in overtime, I be working. Just know I'ma go for mine, cause I earned it. They watching, I know it's time, I confirmed it. A whole society determined for sure.